folks, what's going on? HeirofCarthage here. Hey, I've got a fun replay today that was sent to me by a Rubber Duck of War. Check the links, by the way, in the description. I have a link to his channel. Makes some fun videos, has been a part of multiplayer for a long time, and has sent me stuff in the past. He sent me this one, basically, talking about the matchup between Vampire Coast and Lizardmen, and it is a troubled matchup for the Lizardmen. The Vampire Coast has access to tremendous amounts of armor-piercing missiles and artillery and stuff that, generally speaking, makes life kind of a nightmare for the Lizards. I definitely don't... I wouldn't feel confident now. Of course, there's a lot of situations in multiplayer I don't feel confident about just because I'm not a very practiced player at the moment. But regardless, I would know picking Lizards to go up against Vampire Coast, you could potentially have problems. Typically speaking, what I've tried sometimes is like burying the Vampire Coast in infantry, but, you know, if you get unlucky and you wind up against Silostra, or, you know, Necrofex Colossus with Noctilus on top of it, you just can't kill them. Like, when you sacrifice the single entity monsters for the Lizardmen, it gets very difficult to actually kill any of these big things from the coast. So let's see what he's brought here. He's got a whole bunch of skink cohorts with javelins out front. You can see we got Harkon, Crazy Luther here on his Terrorgeist. Now remember, the Terrorgeist for the coast is not anti-large. It has slightly different characteristics to it. Krokgar is actually leading the Lizardmen, which is... This is going to give them some monster killing power for sure, because Krokgar is good at that. He's also good at being killed by AP missiles, so there's some risk, but anything is. The Dread Saurian is brought in to help really kind of tie up a lot of things in the middle, and over that, the Lizardmen brought a ton of Fire Leech bolas with the Poha Sentinels, and boy, look what it did to the artillery. Just look at the back line of the coast here, getting absolutely shredded by the pterodactyls here. The Fire Leech Bola is having a great effect across this. So this has really shut down a considerable portion of the missile attack that would have been available via these carronades, and they would have done some massive damage to the Croc and the Dread Saurian. You can see that Harkon here trying to help stop the Saurian, but again, I mean, he could shoot it and do some damage. It's going to take a long time, and if you give this thing too long in melee, it can be bad. So, like, I understand why he's up here. Trying to stop it, but at the same time, shooting it may be a good way to go with Harkon. Again, it's just going to take forever. Now, over here, we did have a Skink Priest, Laura Beast. He's tied up with a bunch of scurvy dogs, and they're attacking. The Skink cohort's helping him, and he summoned a Manticore. I like this as well. This flexibility of the Lizards to kind of bring in yet another single entity monster if needed. It's also very mobile and can make its way quickly to a lot of points in the battlefield. Look at this. The carronades are absolutely shut down. That one's gone. And this one over here, it's been extremely limited. So, nice play with the Fire Leech Bolas. It's a very interesting idea. I'd use Fire Leech Bolas. Look at that Krokgar with his magic shotgun. Boy, he took a piece out of Harkon right there. Wow. And looks like Harkon's going to get finished by the Feral Manticore. That is rough for Harkon. He got pummeled. And at this point, the Dread Saurian is kind of on a tear, and there's not much that the coast can do to stop it. I mean, when you let this thing get this late into a game, if it's not going to be buried in pole arms or, you know, attacked by missiles, it's going to do massive damage to you. Like, I mean, the Saurian to me is kind of one of those high risk, high reward type units. It's a very high risk. It's a lot of money into a very big target that, if killed, is just devastating. To the player who brought it, but if it gets late into a game, the amount of damage output they have is just obscene. I mean, look at it. There's 648 missile damage, 750 weapon damage, and I mean, not that you need a lot of armor for what it's up against here, but that's a lot of AP damage at 530. That is a lot. Nice splash damage on them too, so I mean, it's going to be rough. The coast has lost Harkon. They're about to lose their Vampire Fleet Captain. They still do have this Gunnery Wight here, and he is doing some kind of consistent damage here to the Saurian. He's been shooting at it, which is a good call. But, I mean, the Saurian has so many hit points. It's going to take a while for that Gunnery Wight to be able to actually finish him. We're going to see another summon here, and this is obviously going to be a nail in the coffin here. Pun intended, I guess, since we're talking about vampires. The nail in the coffin for the Vampire Coast. They're just not going to be able to take it. It's interesting army composition, to be sure. I really enjoyed the use of the Fire Leech Bolas. I've not really had a lot of situations where I felt like Fire Leech Bolas were very useful. They felt very useful to the Lizardmen here, and I like that. I kind of just was able to get so many of them bring them in and park them on the artillery and just start unleashing the damage. They didn't get an immediate kill. They caused a ton of damage, and then the artillery and the other guns couldn't necessarily just focus on killing the Pterodon riders, because, I mean, you can't just leave a Dread Saurian alive, right? So they're trying to kill the Saurian, and at the same time, there just wasn't enough for the Coast to shoot everything. And so it ended up being an interesting strategy. It's like extremely light on infantry, which kind of makes sense because Coast, generally speaking, sucks at infantry in multiplayer, just because depth guard are very expensive to bring in any sort of numbers to be dangerous. But I mean, then again, I mean, unless you had a polearm one, you don't want depth guard in a fight with the Dread Saurian. I mean, like I said, if the polearms could get it to just stand still and take it, maybe. But I mean, you certainly don't want the other type of depth guard in a fight with the Dread Saurian. So this was really great. I appreciate Rubber Duck of War sending this in. I enjoyed watching this one. I feel like definitely not something. I mean, like, typically when I pick the Lizardmen, I kind of just write off the Dread Saurian because it's so expensive and difficult to use that unless I'm just memeing around or something, like, I typically just write off the Dread Saurian in multiplayer because it's so expensive. They're pretty fun in campaign. They can be used in some other fashions, obviously. Good time there, but he did a great job with them here. I mean, take a look at the value. I mean, you got the value out of it. It's a very expensive unit, but the value was there. And honestly, that's going up against a bunch of relatively cheap Coast stuff here, so that's even more impressive result in my mind. And look at the raw damage value on these Fire Leech Bolas. This is incredible. These units just racked it up for the most part. The Poha Sentinels was actually the weakest return on investment, but the Fire Leech Bolas were owning. And of course, Krotgar, because he wasn't being shot by cannons or Necrofex, of course did very well in the fights that he got into. And the support from the Skink Priest was also really nice. The summon, don't underestimate what you can get out of some properly used transformation of Kaidan, or Kaidan, however you say it. It's a very useful spell, especially, like I said, when you use it in a timely manner or at the right targets. It can definitely help swing a battle. And then the army here for Coast, I don't think this is a bad army pick at all. You got some AP handguns, some scurvy dogs to give you a little mobility and ability to chase stuff. Carronades, because yes, AP, long range, cheap, and then just some infantry to hold and cause some trouble. So, I mean, I definitely don't necessarily disagree with the way that Coast is picked now. You could pick Noctilus, maybe change things up just a little bit here. But I mean, let's imagine that all of a sudden a Necrofex Colossus is in this fight. Let's say replace Luther Harkon with Noctilus, and I don't even know if the money allows for this, like a clean exchange here, but let's just think about that real quick. You replace Harkon with Noctilus. Does this fight go a lot different? Like if Noctilus is on, let's say, a Necrofex? Not really, because I mean, Krotgar is going to charge in and force him into a melee. He can't run away from Krotgar. And with the artillery getting drowned in Fire Leech Bolas, I mean, you're still kind of stuck in the same situation. I've got nothing to deal with, the Dread Saurian and Krotgar coming in. So again, I like it. It's an interesting pick. If you all play a lot of Coast or Lizards, love to hear it, or even if you don't, just love to hear what you think. Go down and leave some comments. Tell me what you think about this pick and the Lizardman versus Coast matchup. Do you think I mischaracterized the matchup between Lizardman and Coast? I feel like it's a tough matchup for him. And then what do you all find? What do you think of it? It's okay. You can discuss campaign or multiplayer, either one. Obviously, I know they're very different things, and here we're mostly talking in the context of multiplayer. But again, just kind of curious what you all think on this one. Anyway, HeirofCarthage signing out for now. Do hope you enjoyed it. Thanks again to Rubber Duck of War. I will see you all soon with some more Total War Warhammer 2 content.